Welcome back. So I left you guys with 3 failing tests. Now, as developers, that's kind of bad. I should never leave failing tests. And I actually even committed this to GitHub and pushed it up there. So if you guys open this right now, you'll have 3 failing tests, maybe even more. But don't worry, I fixed those for the next lesson. So just jump to the next lesson and they're all fixed. But here's the point. You should never, ever commit code to GitHub if you have failing tests. Because if you do, other developers on your team will start getting failing tests on their machines. And also, if you have some kind of continuous integration system or something like that, then that will start failing as well. And you'll have a manager who kind of knocks your door and says, "What are you doing, man? Why do we have failing tests right now? Everything should run." So whenever you do a commit, try and do this in the future. Try and run all your unit tests. If every unit test is green, then do the commit, okay? If you have one single failing unit test, don't do the commit. Figure out what's wrong with the test when the test is green again, and everything is green, then do a commit, right? That's the final step every time before you push some code to your repositories. Okay, how do we fix these? Well, let's go and check out the tests first because they actually kind of seem the same like the ones we built in the validator. So the failing tests right now all kind of test validation about the location. Do we even need them anymore? No, we don't, because now that logic or that responsibility has moved from the location service into the validator. So we don't need these guys anymore. So let's just get rid of them. Okay, so I'll jump into my code right here and I'll have a look at these tests. And again, if you kind of read the test, you can see they are testing validation of the location, and that's kind of not our responsibility anymore. So we'll kind of move all of that into our validators. So let's just get rid of these Gajumi, they're gone. Now, what do I need then? Because something is wrong now. You removed some code now from the location service right here. So right now when I do a create, I'm not going to validate anything. That's bad. Yes, it is. We need to start using the validator in here, but we need to start using it test-driven. So step 1 is we need to kind of add a way so we know there's a validator available when we create a location service. How do we do that? Well, we need to put it in the constructor, right? We need to say when you create a location service, you also now need to send in a validator that we can use inside a location service. So let's jump to our validator test down here, the location service test. And let's go in there and create a new method. And I'm just going to paste in a method I already created. I cheated. So we have a new method right here that says create new location service of type iLocationService, same name as this guy, with null as location validator, same as this guy, except it's not a repository, it's a validator I'm passing in, should throw a null reference exception. Let's try and go and create that. Now, we'll go and create this right here as we did before, but I'll make a small change because I can actually not accept a null location repository. So let's go and make a new mock right here. And you're probably not familiar with mocks that much yet, so just kind of live with it for now. But what we're doing right here is just we're creating a fake object that has the same capabilities like this interface. So now I have a location service that's not null anymore. It's just kind of a blank object that can't do anything for me. Okay, so now this will pass. So I'm going to do the same like we did before. Location validator as, null as location validator. Whoop, there we go. So now I'm passing this in here, and that should of course throw a similar exception like the one we had before, except that it should say location validator parameter cannot be null. So again, read the exception. We're doing the same thing like we did earlier with the location repository. We're doing the same thing now when we create location service with a null as a validator, because I want to be sure there's always a validator available. Let's try and just add this to our constructor to make the test pass. So we need to say we're passing in a location validator. Now again, if you guys want to, you can of course start working with interfaces right here. We can try and do that next lesson to add an interface instead, but it's not a requirement. It depends if you feel that the location validator might be something that you provide from the outside later, or you need to use outside of this code later. I probably would make this into an interface. Let's just do it next lesson to kind of work with that. So now we have a new code that just kind of prepares us to have this location validator available in our test. So let's see if the test runs now, but wait a second, I have another error. Oh, right here I have a location service. Now that of course won't work right now because it says you need 2 parameters now to create a location service. Let's try and get back to our code. And right now it doesn't matter what I pass in right here because it'll get a null exception right away. So let's just pass in null for now. because we'll never get to the location validator. We'll get a null right away because this guy's actually null. So there we go. Let's try and run the test, and hopefully now all unit tests will pass. Boomio, all unit tests are passing, and that means that now I'm sure that I have a location validator exception if there's no location validator available. And then next lesson we can make a new test where we kind of validate that everything is as we want it to be with the location that we're passing into our create function. So let's try and do that next lesson. See you next time. Have fun.